Right, so Reform UK, the right-wing political party that morphed out of the Brexit Party and makes the Tories look like a bunch of socialists, has, but unlike the Tories, just ended up in a spot of scandal and corruption. You see, as much as they're attacking the Tories for being too high tax, for daring to consider watering down any part of their beloved Brexit, and of course the perennial finger pointing at dinghies and over immigration, they're apparently bribing Tories to defect to them. Yes, the party of finger pointer in chief up there on the White Cliffs of Dover, Nigel Farage, as much as they slag the Tories off and appeal to the harder right fringe of that party more and more, they know the crack when it comes to our ridiculous, unfair electoral system, and it means that there's no way for them to cut through in anything like a swift manner. But one shortcut would be for sitting Tory MPs to just surrender the Tory whip and join them instead. And they have allegedly been targeting MPs in the north, presumably those occupying red wall seats who are at significant risk of losing their seats to Labour on current polling projections. But because there's no requirement to trigger a by-election for the seat in such circumstances, Reform UK would have ready-made instant MPs. Now, this isn't just hearsay or rumour. A formal complaint has been submitted to the Speaker's office of the House of Commons, to Lindsay Hoyle, that Farage, despite not being the leader of Reform UK these days, seems to be going around as some kind of fixer instead, allegedly having conversations with potentially vulnerable Tory MPs just to see where their thinking is at the moment. Given the complaint has now been formally submitted, I can only assume the offer has been made to at least some. But what is the offer they're putting on the table? What is this alleged bribe? Tory MPs have apparently been offered £400,000 apiece to defect, which would take the form of compensation should they lose their seats at the next general election. They'd effectively keep getting paid as if they were still an MP for several years after leaving Parliament by Reform UK. Interesting use of their donors' money, you would think. Dead money when such people are no longer of any use to them, surely. But when we take a look at their finances and where their money's coming from, it makes for an interesting read. Let's put it that way. I'll come on to it in a moment. Cash being offered in this way ought to constitute a violation of the Bribery Act. Yes, we have such a thing, surprisingly, which could result in imprisonment for certain individuals as well as potential disqualification of the party directors under the Company Directors Disqualification Act, which would be bad news for both the former party leader Nigel Farage and the current one, the perma-tanned, perma-grinning presenter of Talk TV, Richard Tice. I wonder how Talk TV will react to one of their presenters possibly getting done for bribery of elected officials if all of this proves to be true. What am I talking about? It's the UK equivalent of Fox News, isn't it? It's Rupert Murdoch backed. He might well get a pay rise. Speaking of pay, though, where has this money for these alleged bribes come from? Reform UK have only existed from the beginning of its Brexit Party foundation since 2018 to ensure we basically don't go back into the EU, despite polls showing clear signs we would likely do so if given half a chance. They received more than £3 million in income in 2021, yet only spent around half that, whereas it was typical of larger parties to spend pretty much everything they've got, if not more, in the form of top-up loans. Have they been saving cash up for something? It should be pointed out that Richard Tice has announced Reform UK will be standing everywhere at the next election. You can argue cash reserves are needed for such things, of course, but still, it makes you wonder if some of it has at least been set aside for something else, perhaps these alleged bribes. Of course, donors will be being attracted too. Right-wing parties are reliant on the rich, as always, to fund them. They are always parties of the rich on the right. So we can always take a look at who has been doing so on the Electoral Commission website, public information, and it is all rather fascinating. Their largest donor, amongst a handful of individual donations, has been Britain Means Business Limited, which was previously known as Leave Means Leave. Yes, them again. The very wealthy, as well as perma-tanned, perma-grinning current Reform UK party leader Richard Tice, was pretty much self-financing the party up until May of last year, which was the last reportable donation the party received. They only need to publicly declare donations over £7,500. They haven't had any since last May, though, apparently. Britain Means Britain Limited was actually dissolved just last month in January. So where's the money coming from now? Donations drying up with no apparent income coming in doesn't indicate a party doing very well, does it? Well, the donations might have dried up, but according to the Electoral Commission website, which also publishes information on loans taken out by political parties, Reform UK have been borrowing very heavily, all the way back as far as January of 2020, from a company called Tice Investments Limited. It's the only place Reform UK have borrowed from. And since then, right up until their most recent recorded loan of £20,000 last September, they've borrowed a total of almost £1.4 million from Tice. And according to those same Electoral Commission figures, haven't yet repaid a single penny of it. That might not be a problem, though, because Tice Son is again run by Richard Tice. The name seems to be a play on his full name, Richard James Sunley Tice. So first he was donating food to them via a business interest, and now he's lending to them via another business interest. Just what would they do without him? Makes you wonder. Of course, what also helps is, just as we saw for years with Nigel Farage, the platform Tice enjoys with his partner, the porridge for the poor advocate Isabel Oakeshott, on a national TV channel built for frothing gammon types, promotes their ideology. Despite being majority funded one way or another, seemingly by their party leader alone virtually, Reform UK recorded a larger annual income in 2021-22 than the Green Party did, a party that gets virtually no national media representation at all. Lucky if they appear once a year on Question Time, just as a for instance. That's not enough, though. Reform are apparently demanding even more TV time ahead of those local elections in May. If they get it, put these bribery questions to them whilst they're on the telly. Reform UK seems to be little more than a political plaything for a very right-wing, very rich man. And I dare say if they get censured for bribery, if the claims being reported now in multiple news sources pan out to be true, no doubt the blame will fall on lefty woke types, even though it was the Daily Mail of all places that broke this story. It's them that'll get the blame. The Tice audience of Talk TV will lap it up and still vote accordingly, I'm sure. There's no suggestion or evidence, however, directly linking Tice to any of these bribery claims. It should be noted. But an investigation absolutely should be conducted. And if any wrongdoing is found, with the buck stopping with the leader and chief benefactor of this party, without him, what actually have you got left?